In this video, I'm going to show you how I was EQing a sound system at a church here in Kansas City after we verified and tested the speaker system to make sure that it was covering left to right, front to back, all four corners, and getting the coverage that we need with where the speakers were placed. If you missed that video, I'll drop a link to that down in the description below. It's important to test out your speaker's coverage to make sure that it's pointed in the right place and in the right place before you start adding EQ, because EQ can only affect the entire area where that speaker is covering. You can't fix a coverage issue with EQ, and so that's what we did in the last video. Since we verified it and it is covering well, now we can tackle the tonality of the speakers, starting with the basic shape of what's the top end and the bottom end really doing, and then try to tackle little issues in the mid-range as well. These subs are kind of lacking, so let's see if we actually get what we need to out of this speaker system. Okay, so now we're going to try to get the sub where we want it without it distorting. So we're going to turn this on, but before we turn this on, we're going to go and see what the sub amp is set to and see if there's any more to turn it up that we can get. So sub is on output 3, does not have a level control in the front, but the level output, or it says sub, I guess that's what it is, it's not telling me.
I think that's the processing it's doing.
Right, that's what it's set to, not the overall levels.
So
if I can go to setup, it's not showing me anything under here.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it's locked. Do you know if there's a level control on the back of this?
I don't know. I mean, otherwise the options I know is from the board, because we're just using a single channel that feeds all of these.
Right.
Here. You can do.
Yeah, we could bump it from the board.
And we can in the graphic EQ.
Right.
So
I would prefer to do it this way in case we switch boards, then these still sound the way that they sound.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not that update would include new speakers.
I mean, we can scoot this forward and you can see what's back there.
Yeah, let's try that. Okay, there is some level control. It's the second one, right?
Yeah, it's the middle of the 3.
Okay, so it's at -10. Let's go up to -6. Let's go up to -4. We can always trim it back. When we get to the fine tuning, we can get on the phone or something. All right, let's see what that sounds like and if it distorts. All right, because we don't want to overload that speaker. That would be bad. All right. Okay. So we're getting a little bit of help there. But it's not really reaching as low as I would love it to. Let me just see. You have that iPad here? Did you leave it?
It's right here.
Let's just see if it can go. Let's do this. Where is it? Like, will it push any more? Kinda. Okay, so it will get louder. Okay, let's leave this flat. And let's crank that up the rest of the way, although yeah, I wish I could do that, but we'll see if it's. That's more of the shape that I would like. At least for the bottom end. Yeah. Let me. Yeah. And then ideally what I would like to see on the top end is more something like. See if it'll. You want to get a little bit of a dip down below, like from 1K up to here, you want to have a little bit of a fall off.
The reason why there was the dip at around the 150 in here is that's where I believe the room seems to ring out the strongest.
It just resonates, yeah.
And so we knocked that down just a little bit to help our gain before feedback.
So this is maybe what I would like it to look like, but we know that the sub can do that. I'm gonna gain it up the rest of the way and then pull this back down. And then we will see if the system processor will let me get into it. It probably wants a PC to connect to, which is a bummer. But let's go ahead and crank up that amp a little bit more. Okay, so we're gonna say, let's see if we can get control of that or if it's locked. Let's just see if we can dive in a little deeper and see if it's gonna allow us the privilege of making changes. And I get why people like lock stuff and make it unchangeable, because they don't want people that are like, you know, just dangerous enough to come in and jack up their work and then their name's still on it, right? Many AV companies go out of business, I'll say it that way. And so then nobody knows how to get back into it and it's just kind of locked forever. Output level for, let's see, I actually want to do EQ on the input A. Just putting my name on it. Okay, so put PEQ9 and put a high shelf, slope of 12 dB an octave. We'll see how that works. We'll see what it measures as. It's at about 4K and it's 5 dB down. We're just gonna see if it's operational, because it does say bypass off, which I'm assuming bypass off means that it's on, but you never know.
Like that.
Double negatives. All right. All right, so I saw no change. It was exactly the same. So that did not do what we intended. So let's see what we did wrong after we put it back. All right, I turned off edit mode and maybe that'll do it. Nope. Still exactly the same. Let's try some more. See if bypass on means that it's engaged. Well, we boosted the subwoofer levels. Now I'm trying to tame the high frequencies a little bit.
Oh.
Still no change. All right, so PEQ is still not doing what we want it to do. We verified that the speakers work, which is a big thing. We verified that the subs are not pushing as much as we might want, but we're taking steps for making that beefier. So then the kick drum can have some oomph to it.
A bit more body. If you did new amp or PA, what would you put them back up there? Would you put different placement somewhere else?
I think it would probably, well, we don't lose any height going left and right. And so I would probably do that to keep the speakers farther away from the center. Because, you know, with the center, the preacher standing right in the middle, if those speakers are an extra 3 feet away, that's going to be helpful in, you know, having less potential for feedback. But a lot of times in these like A-frame ceilings, you move to the outside and you lose height. When you lose height, you change the ratio between the distance to the speakers to the front row and the distance of the speakers to the back row, or at least as far back as you can get. So that sometimes is not optimal, but with the horizontal pieces here, we're not losing anything by moving left and right. So then we're getting the speakers closer to where people are. We would still want to have a pretty wide speaker coverage angle so that those front and left and right corners don't get missed, and see how wide we could get with that speaker coverage so that we don't have to have a front fill like on the corner over there or over here to make sure that people can hear there. Would probably keep the delays, you know, where they are. The delays are not problematic. They're filling in well.
that the name of those?
Delays he's talking about are these speakers up
Oh,
here.
yeah,
So
yeah,
the speakers in the back,
Which are those on? Do they run?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they fill in just a little bit of detail on the top end that gets lost from the speakers being so far away up there. It's a well-designed system. It's just, it could be better for gain before feedback, and it could be better for sub lows and being able to have some impact there. Now, just because I can get the level to show up on here doesn't mean that that can actually give some punch. It might be able to sustain some low end, but not really move air to like, oh, that thumps. So that's the other thing we're looking at balancing.
You just add like a separate sub speaker back behind the
Absolutely.
just to produce its own
Yeah, and that's what a lot of systems do.
lower end.
So that would be like if the goal would be just more low end and we were fine with the gain before feedback.
Which like you would run the bass to, right? Or do you run the bass to the?
You know, the bass has those upper frequencies as well, but it's that lower stuff that just the sub produces, you know, so you'd send the signal to both of those.
Yeah.
What's the crossover frequency right now for our sub?
Probably right at 125, which is a little high, but I don't know how much farther down those other ones can go. But they're adding together nicely at that point and below. I might see if I could shift that lower, have a little more energy available for the lower part of where that sub is trying to create, but we'll see what's going on there. So I just got to figure out how to get this a little bit darker because this EQ is not responding. Because I don't know if you guys want to nerd out and look at this, but the goal is to have a little bit less top end as you go up. So that sounds more natural. So these are really flat or a little bit even boosted up here on the top end, which makes it feel a little sparkly. But really for what you want it to do for music that feels good is, you know, right here about 1 or 1.5 K. It slightly tapers down and comes down below here and then drops off. So that's kind of the object for what we're trying to do to get that to feel a little bit more natural and full. So like when we play music, you know, oh, this feels right. It doesn't feel like it's a little bit extra sizzly and in your face. So that's what I'm trying to get the system processor to do right now. Yeah, so we'll see if we can figure that out. All right, let's see if we can crack this nut. So bypass on didn't change anything.
Okay. Were you working on input A or B?
A. So maybe input B.
Oh, you're working on B right there. That's the frequency that.
Okay.
And I can't remember.
So we might be trying to go on the left channel instead of the right channel because the input A was probably the left channel that's now going to left to both of these.
Yeah.
So that's probably where we need to be is input A to make these changes.
Possibly. We can go check the wiring in the back.
Oh, I can just pop this down by 6 dB and see if it's doing anything at 8K, and maybe that's where we want it. We'll see. Now let's try. When in doubt, choose the right input. Okay, we've got some level change now. So we made it work. Now that we're on the right input, so let me write down what I want to do. I want to have a 4K shelf and a 9K parametric. If I went to 8K, maybe I bring this down to 4, something like that. Now I want to go, let's go up to 8. Let's take that down to 2.7. I want it to be a little wider. I'll just try it. Gain, not 9, 6 dB there. We've got EQ 8 and 9 down 6 dB each. We'll see what that does. Let's go too far and then see if we can do what it needs to do. All right, we went aggressive. We're gonna try it. I really want to be at 9. All right, I'm going to make a couple changes, but I know that it's working. So on the high shelf, I'm going to change the slope to 6 dB per octave, and I'm going to change the gain to -3. On the number 8, I'm going to change this bandwidth to narrower, 2.5. and I'm gonna go to 9.5, 9.3, something like that. We'll try that. I'm also gonna try this, and we'll see if that works. Keep it at 6. Trying to cut this one frequency based on this single mic placement was a mistake. I did it for a bit before remembering a tidbit from a video I did with the eminent Michael Curtis a few years ago.
It's very tempting to start chasing these little gremlins, but that's why having multiple measurements at once lets you know, like, what can you trust? Of like, it's now a 2-to-1 ratio of like, I'm right, dude, we don't need 13K.
Right.
But that one microphone, let's see our very front microphone, which is most off axis with our speaker, which is most likely to get the most spurious of things, is saying like, wait, there's too much 13K. You're like, no, hang on, it's all right.
So when I remembered this, I changed tactics and started working from multiple mics and averages, not single points of measurement. I am happy with how that's looking at that spot. I'm gonna set up all 3 mics again to make sure that they're doing what I want them to do across the whole place and not just like, oh, this one spot, right? Because anytime you make an EQ change, it EQs the entire room, not just one place. So you don't want to take data from just one spot and think that it's okay everywhere else. You want to be able to look at all of them and see, is this working globally? I'm gonna make sure that the delays are time aligned, because I did not do that yet. I didn't verify that. So we're gonna take a measurement, just the main. So I'm gonna mute everything but the left input. Mute everything but the left input and take a measurement for timing. So if that timing is off, then there's gonna be more comb filtering up there, and then it's not gonna connect properly. So we'll see what it is. If it was in the ballpark, I think we're on. Okay, this is left, rear. Okay. I'm gonna see if I can give it 3 milliseconds more delay. We'll see. But I do want a little bit more level from that. Well, we're gonna give it 3 milliseconds more delay. So we're gonna output delay channel 4 and 5, set up lock, output 4 level. Okay, so I'm not gonna mess with that, although I wish I could. So we're just gonna have to leave it. So we're gonna call that good after we listen to music. So I'm not gonna be able to affect that delay level like I want it to. Well, let's just check the manual and see what I can do. Let's not give up so quickly. Some stuff is only available for the PC application. Let's see if it shows me the E thing. It's probably only available. Delay for the output channels, yes. Okay, so I don't think I can add any more from this on the outputs, but for some reason the input processing was letting me do it. So I can do that. Maybe editing mode full will let me do it. Setup mode unlocked. Why isn't it, when I select channel delay, is not letting me do anything? If I'm not going to change the delay time, I want to turn up amplifier's output. Main, sub, delay. Let's ease that up to 8. We're adding 2 dB to the delays. I think it did. All right, so there's parts of that I'm happy with. There's parts of it in the low end that I want to make some EQ adjustments to the way the low end's kind of hitting. There's some stuff that I want to tame down and make a little bit more even. I'm happy with the tonality of the top end.
Yeah.
So that's going to feel a lot less harsh, a little smoother. So then hopefully those people that are saying, it's too loud, it hurts my ears.
Right.
They're going to have an easier time with that. And then it'll be easier to mix from the board and not have to try to fight all that.
Yeah.
So let me do some more EQ on the low frequency stuff, and then we'll see how it feels again with music. But it's always nice to get an idea of like, how far off are we still? Because lines on a screen only tell you so much.
Right.
You got to know what it feels like. But
Definitely more bass than it had.
yeah. So we'll see how much.
From like -10 to 0 or something in there. Did you boost
Well, the amplifier itself was at -10. There's a couple frequencies that are sticking out more than I want, so I'm just going to try to pull those back so that it's more even on the low end, because that can't reproduce the really low stuff very well.
Right.
So it's really resonating, and it's kind of like, it's excited. It's like, I can do this. We're going to try to tame that down a little bit with EQ so that it's more of an even boost in the bottom end.
Yeah.
We're on our way. I still don't know how to edit the output side of that system processor, but I can edit the inputs. So I can edit the input EQ and get it done that way. So we'll make it work.
Right.
It's not the most elegant. Sometimes I wish I had a Windows XP laptop, but I don't think I'm going to find that in 2024.
Hopefully.
So let's look at this, 85-ish. While we're making use of what we have, we're a little bit handcuffed, but we're going to make it work. Is it the most elegant way to do it? No. But we're going to have a good time and make it happen. I'll make a little EQ change. So on my input EQ, because I have access to that, so that worked. I guess I can close this back up. Let's go to input PEQ. Let's go to band 2, and we're going to go to 85. And we're going to gain that down 5 dB and see if we're in the ballpark for too narrow or too wide. That Q of 0.07 is kind of wide. Let's actually make that a little bit narrower. Go up to 2.5 and see what that does. I guess if I wanted to, I could figure out how to do this on the graphic EQ or the parametric EQ on the board while I can look at it right there and then transfer the settings over. That would be nice. I don't know if that's going to happen today. Well, I guess I could do it the next time. All right. Oops. Tower of Power coming at you. Left, front to back, sub EQ. Okay, I did what I wanted it to do. Now I wonder if I could push it a little bit more. 63. But I think I need to take it a little bit narrower. Narrower would keep the 63 and the 125-ish. So let's do that. It's 2.5, let's go to 4. Let's see if we can see that. See what 4 does. I'm not mad about that. See if I can boost 63. Let's go to our low, turn it into parametric and boost 63. Let's just see what we can get. We are going to go to EQ1. We're going to go to PEQ. We're going to make it 5. We're going to go to the 63. I'm going to turn it up 4 dB. See what that does. Left, front to back. Well, we can go back because I have the other one saved and my settings are saved. There's still a little, let me listen to music again. There's still kind of a little hole right around 500 to 700 where it's a little less.
Okay.
So I'm going to see if I can warm that up too, but I want to get these subs right. There's a saying I put on my channel all the time that says it's all about the low end, and the full quote is when you get that right, everything else falls into place.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get the subs and the lows right, everything else on top of that has a reference point that's solid, and it's not getting masked by stuff that's, you know, out of place. Let's just listen real quick. Something's still really resonating and I'm not loving it. Maybe that's why they brought the sub level down, because it was just hanging on too long. All right, so I think I'm just going to dial the sub amp back just a little bit.
Okay.
I think it's just not really able to handle the level that we want it to.
Right.
So let's put it in a spot where it can reproduce well what we're trying to ask it to do.
Right.
I don't know if it's necessarily distorting, but it's just not elegant.
Yeah.
So I'm going to turn that amp down 2.5, 3 dB, something like that.
Okay.
And then, but I'm liking the EQ changes that I made still with that. So
Yeah.
it's feeling more natural now. All right, so I'm happy with that part of it. There's some in the low mids I want to take care of and see if we can get a little more out of that. It's just in every measurement, there's this hole here between kind of 460 and 760. Just a little boost there. I mean, it's measuring down like 7 dB, but I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to be that precise with this EQ.
I mean, it has both that parametric and a graphical one on there.
Yeah, I could see if I could get the graphic EQ to get that. Let me take a couple pictures so that I can have that reference point. Let's see if the graphic EQ will be my friend. This is where my camera died, so I'm gonna have to leave you there. However, I was very pleased with how the final EQ sounded, and I'll put the average of the last measurement we took here on screen. My final recommendation for them is that if they want some more oomph, they're gonna have to buy some subs. There's just no getting around that. However, for the time being, their sound system is fitting their approach of having more acoustic-driven sets and having congregational singing, so having an immersive sound system is not critical for the way that they choose to worship. The other recommendation I'd give is to get some acoustic panels on the brick walls to tame some of the parallel surfaces that could cause some acoustic problems and anomalies that don't necessarily sound great. As it stands though, I just checked in with their worship leader and they're pretty happy with how their system is sounding. Those subs and acoustic panels are in their future. There's no major fires to have to put out anymore now that the sound system is sounding good and they've got a lot more gain before feedback. If you're wanting some on-the-ground help with your sound system, there's a link down below to fill out a form on my website where you can reach out and see if one of our team coming to your church would be a good fit for you. We want to help you have a sound system that sounds great, that's easy to mix on, and a system that's easy for volunteers to crush it every single week. If you want to learn more about system design, system tuning, and speaker coverage, I recommend the Amateur to Pro course inside the Attaway Audio Academy. I'm currently filming and updating that course, but the old one still is packed full of great content for understanding when your speaker system is actually covering your room, and if you need to make changes, how should you do that to get the best bang for your buck with the system that you already have. It also walks you through the entire sound system from sound source all the way to the speakers so that you can troubleshoot with ease and not be in over your head when something's not working. I'll put a link to more info about Amateur to Pro and the Attaway Audio Academy down in the description below. As always, remember, it's all about the low end, avoid the sound tech solo, and nobody leaves church humming the kick drum. We'll see you back here next time on Attaway Audio.